Hello, my name is Clive Harris and I'm a Senior Solutions Advisor at Rocket Software. Today I'll be talking about how to create a new application trace to collect application trace facility data using the OMEGAMON for IMS Classic interface. The first task that must be completed to collect application trace facility data is to create an appropriate trace. To do so, select option H from the OMEGAMON for IMS Classic interface main menu, and then option A on the command line to see the Manage Application Trace panel. This panel is used to create, clone, delete, activate, deactivate and modify application traces. You can also enter action characters B or C to view the application history data or the application history exception data based on a selected trace, as well as providing filter criteria. When displayed, this panel issues the ATM command, which displays the set of application traces and their status that are currently defined to ATF. I will now describe how to add an application trace definition, but you can also clone a trace and modify a trace in a similar manner. Use the A action code to create a new trace in the line command area in the ATM section of the panel, and hit enter. You'll now see the Specify Application Trace Details panel. A trace ID must be supplied and is by default the start date and start time fields are populated based on a 24-hour clock with the current date and time. You can specify any future start date and time. By default, again, the duration for the length of the trace is 5 minutes, but you can specify a duration from 1 to 99,999 minutes, or run it forever. You need to fill in and specify the job name or PSB name or DBD name, user ID for the particular things or items that you're looking for, and then PFK 8 down. The Summarize Only field is used to limit the amount of data that's collected, and you set it to yes to just produce summary records. The Log to No IMS field is used to decide if the summary record for each transaction is written to the IMS log, in addition to writing to the ATF ZOS log stream within the OMEGAMON product. You specify only when the data is to be written to the IMS log and not to the ZOS log stream. With the ATF summary log records written to the IMS log, you can use the IMS Performance Analyzer or other third-party products or even user-written applications to further process the data that ATF collects. The BMP Trace by Message or Checkpoint field specifies whether each message and checkpoint call in a BMP job is traced as a separate transaction. If N is specified, then the BMP job spec is traced as a single transaction across checkpoints. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see the exception criteria. All these values are all together, and you can decide just to trace exceptions by changing the exception only code from N to Y. You can also determine whether to trace or not based on an append code, or based upon raising exceptions if the elapsed or CPU time for any of the various components, DR1, DB2 or MQ, exceed your specified limit. So let's fill in some fields in order to be able to activate a trace. I'm specifying a trace ID of fly0002. I'm specifying a PSB name of fly HPSB1. I want it to run forever, and I also want to just produce summary records. Having filled in the appropriate fields, I then hit enter and the trace is added. And now I can PS3 back to the main panel, and you'll see the trace that we've just created listed in the bottom half of the screen. And you'll see that that trace is active and will run forever. If I want to modify that trace, I can use the M command. I can type the field required, and the trace is modified. And PS3 back again, and you'll see the changes. So that is a quick summary of how to create a trace in order to collect application trace facility data.